Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Really excited for everyone to be back for another step in our Linux journey. And quite interesting, I am on travel right now and we are driving to our destination. But while I am driving, and of course we took a little break here because we're not going to record and actually drive and record. Although, interestingly enough, the vehicle does have full self-driving, so it actually does drive by itself. But we're not going to record and do that, that's unsafe. But more importantly, back to business now, another step in our Linux journey. And so in this video, we're going to talk all about file system permission. This is an interesting topic and it's going to be broken up into three parts. And of course, there's a lot of information to go over, which is why we broke it up into three parts. But if this is your first time on the channel and it's your first time watching the video up until this point, make sure you check out the description. I always put the latest and greatest information on there. And also as well too, there's a link to our Linux playlist. Watch the other videos and then come to this one because there's some things that we're going to go over that you may miss, as in you won't understand, because our topics, they all build on ideas that we've learned from the past. Make sure you're up to date, and then afterwards come back to this video and watch this video as we take that next step in that journey. So before we jump into the topic, make sure you give me a like for the video as it helps the channel grow. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that way you know when we upload to the channel. And of course, share this video with a family member or friend so that way they can also learn. So let's go ahead and jump into part 3, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Hey everyone, welcome to the desktop. And by now, this environment should be very, very familiar to you. And we already have our terminal up, so we're not going to go into the basics of how do you bring up the terminal. And if this is your first time on the channel and you don't even know what a terminal is, make sure you check out the description, as the description will have all the latest and greatest on the channel. But more importantly, there'll be a link to our Linux playlist, and you can go check that out so that way you can follow along and you can learn everything that there is to know to get you up to this point. And again, we build on concepts and ideas, so this is only going to get harder if you start at a point in time and you have no idea what I'm talking about. So again, if you're new or you haven't seen some of those videos from the past, go check out the description and go check out those videos so that way you can get all caught up. So with housekeeping out of the way, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to another step in your Linux journey. And very excited to see you again because today we're going to talk about the next lesson. And in today's lesson, we're going to talk about an essential topic that everyone should know when you're working with Linux, and that is file system permissions. Now, the next section that I want to talk to you about is understanding special permissions. Now, special permission includes things like SUID, SGID, and something that's called sticky bit. And we can talk about what all three of these means, and I will show you an example specifically on sticky bit because that's actually the one that I see the most. And these are used in order to give extra security or extra functionality. So let's start off with SUID. And all that SUID is it allows a file to be executed with the permissions of the file owner. So if we take a look, let's go back to our terminal here and we do an ls-l on my file 2. If we were to do a chmod, and in this case when we are looking to change the SUID, we can do u for user plus s, and that stands for SUID. And then the next part is the file itself, so let's do my file 2. And of course we get an error, and you should know why we get an error at this point, because we actually changed the permissions on the file earlier. So Acosta E.T.F is actually the file owner, so if I do this as L Acosta, I am seeing this error. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the same command, except this time we're going to do sudo in front of it. Why? Because we're going to elevate our privileges, and we're going to do it anyway. So sorry, Acosta E.T.F, I know you own the file, but who cares? So now that we've actually did the command and we have changed the SUID, let's take a look at the file again. So we do an ls-l my file 2. You can see how the color changed. And by the way, you can see here that this little special S comes on. And this little special S, of course, tells us that we have enabled SUID. And again, the special permission for SUID is that it allows the file to be executed with the permissions of the file owner. So if I am El Acosta, in a sense, I can execute the file using the same permissions as the original owner, which is Acosta E.T.F. So now what we can do, if you're interested in changing this back, we can use our previous command of sudo chmod user, and except this time, instead of adding with the plus, we can do minus. And if we were to do an ls-l on the file, we can see now that we got rid of that special S, and basically what we did was we took off that special permission, which is the SUID. Now let's take a look at SGID. And SGID makes all the files created in a directory inherit the group of the directory. Now for this particular one, since I don't see it that often, I'm going to ask you guys in the comments, you tell me, how have you used this in the past for those who are a little bit more experienced and have done this in the past. That'll be your homework assignment. Now the other one that I want to talk about, and this one is very important because I do see this a lot, and it's called the sticky bit. So what does the sticky bit mean? Well, the sticky bit restricts file deletion within a directory to the file owner. All right, so now that you guys heard the definition of what a sticky bit is, let's go ahead and actually work an example. So in order to work this example, I'm going to create a directory and we'll call it sticky bit. So with the sticky bit directory created, let's go ahead and do an ls-la, and we can see here that we have our sticky bit directory. El Acosta is the owner, groups is El Acosta, and we need to enable sticky bit. And I'll show you guys how to do that. Now in order to enable sticky bit, we'll go ahead and do chmod plus T in the directory, which is sticky bit. So now if we were to do an ls-la again, we can see here that it changed into a darker blue, and there is a special T on the end of this directory, and that stands for sticky bit. And so again, to reiterate, this means that file deletion within this directory is going to be specific towards the file owner. So let's go ahead and go into the directory. Let's create a file, touch, and we'll call it sticky El Acosta. Now let's go ahead and sudo and switch user to Acosta E.T.F. So you can see, who am I? I am Acosta E.T.F. So let's do touch sticky Acosta E.T.F. And it's giving me permissions denied. Why? Because let's go ahead and take a look at the directory permissions. And if we go back to the directory permissions, and so as you can see here, sticky bit, which is a directory, only the owner or the group that is part of El Acosta has the ability to read, write, and execute based on the permissions, which is why we're getting this error down here for permissions denied. So let's go ahead and exit here for just a second to go back to El Acosta, and let's do sudo user mod -a capital G, and we're going to say El Acosta for the group, and we're going to add that to Acosta E.T.F. So essentially what I did there now is I added Acosta E.T.F. to the El Acosta group, and we can do that by checking the ID command. So if we do ID Acosta E.T.F., we can see now that Acosta E.T.F. is not only part of that group, but it also has the El Acosta group. So meaning that if we were to do a sudo switch user to Acosta E.T.F., Acosta E.T.F. now has the ability to read, write, or execute in this particular directory, which solves this permissions denied issues here. So let's go ahead and run the touch command again, and we can see now that that fixed that problem. So if we look into the directory, we can see that Acosta E.T.F. has its own file, and El Acosta has its own file. So here's the thing, if I were to do now an rm sticky El Acosta, Let's see what we get. Interesting, it says it can't remove the file. It says operations not permitted. Even though, right, even though if we look at the permissions of the directory, which is back over here, anybody who's part of the L Acosta group has a permission to read, write, and execute, which means that if we look at Acosta E.T.F, who I am right now as the user, I am a part of that group. So technically, I should be able to read, write, and execute in this directory. But because we have StickyBit enabled, we can't delete this file because StickyBit is protecting this file. So now that we're in the Acosta home directory, if I were to do an ls-la, we can see here that the StickyBit directory has the StickyBit enabled. So if I were to do a chmod -t, and this time minus of course means remove, so remove the StickyBit, and let's target the StickyBit directory. Now if we were to do an ls-la again, we can see here that StickyBit is no longer active on the StickyBit directory. So if I were to go inside the StickyBit directory, let's take a look inside now. If I were to do a sudo switch user to Acosta E.T.F, now if I were to do an rm, and let's target the sticky L Acosta file, well, what do you know? I was able to successfully delete the file this time. And why is that? Because I was able to remove the StickyBit restrictions that only locks down file deletion to the file owner. And that is a way of how you can see how StickyBit can really help you out when you're looking to do a little bit more restrictions when it comes to your files and directories. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully the video has helped you out a lot and you learned a thing or two about file system permissions. Now, I say this in every video, Rome wasn't built in a day, so take your time, but also as well practice. Practice makes perfect. My first time doing this, it was very difficult for me to understand and I did struggle through it. If you didn't get the concepts that we just talked about today, make sure you go ahead and rewatch the video. Make sure you see it over and over again. Again, practice makes perfect. So not only do you watch the videos, but go ahead and actually try what you're learning in the videos. Also, make sure you check out the description as we always put the latest and greatest information on there. Also, if you want to check out any of the previous videos or you want to rewatch something in order to practice again, as I always say, check out the link in the description for our Linux playlist. If this video has helped you out, make sure you give me a like for the video as it helps the channel grow. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that way you're notified whenever we upload new videos to the channel. Because again, we're doing a lot of cool videos on tech, engineering, and also as well money topics or finances as I call them. And lastly, share the video with a family member or friend so that way they can also learn. And so I gotta get to my next destination, guys. So I will see you all in the next video.